He pushed the button.
This is Good Morning Liberty.
Well, what is going on, all of our liberty-loving friends? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name's Chuck. With me, as always, Beck's special, Nathaniel
up,
Paul Thurston.
That's my favorite hat.
Repping the Becks.
Yeah.
Get your...
Got a whole bunch of them, too, you know, when your family's selling Becks.
When you're Big Ag.
You get like, Big
Sponsored.
Pharma.
Sponsored by Big Farm.
With an F. I want that movement to happen. Can we not call Big Ag Big Pharma, only with an F? I think it's way funnier to do it that way.
Tweet it out.
Happy Monday, everyone. It's our inaugural episode of Dumb Bleep of the month, and so that should be pretty fun.
So this is all the dumbest things for January?
The dumbest things that happened in January. It is currently the 3rd of February. Before we get to the dumb things, there's 5 of them. That's way less than normal. Plus, we kind of just talked about some of them, so we don't have to spend quite as much time. We can refer you back to those specific Dumb Bleeps of the weeks to put that together. I think I should put that together into an episode. Like just these dumbs. Yeah. And those clips. I should do that. Yeah. Also.
Do that.
Just more content, more ads out there. Just all of them.
Let's get that sponsorship
those
from
ads.
Bex.
You know those ads that come in when you're listening to the show? I don't know what they're about, but they happen from time to time. So it was a weekend. A lot of, Charlie came in the office and he was like, man, what happened this weekend? There was a lot of stuff that happened. I didn't really follow any of it. I was busy.
You were out at the bars?
Had a 3 family members' birthday party in Chattanooga. I was out at the bars. Yeah. In fact, I had they have so many good mocktails these days. And so you're able to consume a ridiculous amount of sugar with no benefit whatsoever. You just get sugar. And but you get to feel cool with everyone else while you're there. Well, and so I did that out there in Chattanooga with my wife's family. I'm not sure what Charlie was doing this weekend. He was not cleaning the office, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Our office, the studio/office looks like the closet that you don't ever plan on going in again, but it's big enough that you can just kind of chuck stuff in there and then you shut the door and you're never going to go look again, except for we work in it every single day. Yeah. And it sort of starts to make your brain hurt just a little bit. That's kind of what the studio looks like right now, but we're working on it. We're getting it organized. I know everyone's super concerned about that.
It doesn't look like it, but we're making progress.
Yeah, you can't tell, but it's going to be really good. Okay, on the tariff side, one of the big things that happened over the weekend were the tariffs. Trump had announced we would officially be going forward with 25% on Mexico, 25% on Canada,
an additional 10%
on
China.
10% on China. I don't know what that makes the total for China. We kind of do some individual tariffs for certain items from China. I don't know what the total number is that we're doing with them. And everyone was real upset about this and talking about how, some of these crazy left-wing conspiracy theorists, they're like, well, prices are going to go up. Come on. That's ridiculous.
All of a sudden, you have all these economic experts on the left come out.
Yeah. All of a sudden, they're like, when you charge businesses more money, that's going to equal higher prices for consumers because businesses don't actually pay the tax. It's the consumers that actually pay the tax.
Exactly.
It's crazy people on the left saying ridiculous things like that. It's insane, man. Where do they get these crazy notions in their head?
Yeah.
Man.
Now, if you raise business taxes, then the business pays for it.
No, they just pay it.
But tariff,
take that. A tariff specifically,
the business
goes directly to the consumer.
Yeah.
They all understand that. If it's your first time listening, you might not know the fact that we are being facetious about everything right now.
At the same time,
of course, taxes that are paid by businesses are just an expense for that business, and they will find ways to pass it on to the consumer. They won't always pass it on to the consumer. It depends on how much competition they have in that market. Depends on if they can find other sources for some of these goods. The tariffs, a lot of them oftentimes are passed on to the consumer. So people making that argument are, in fact, correct.
And what you find interesting, if you look at some of your receipts, like from the airlines and stuff, you'll see that they'll separate out the different taxes and fees that are imposed.
They'll just directly charge it to you.
And it literally goes like to you.
Yeah.
You know? Look at your cell phone bill if you've never seen, all the different fees and stuff that the government charges these cell phone companies.
Mm-hmm.
They just like literally turn around and put it on paper for you.
Yeah.
If you ever look at the FCC, whatever charge.
Yeah.
All the different, it literally, when I look at my Verizon bill, I'm like, why did it go up by like $20? And it's literally all government fees.
So we have a friend who runs a business in the, I don't know what you even call the kind of business that John does, but audio video business. And essentially he was like, I got to charge everyone about 25-30% more because I can't buy these products in the U.S. We don't make them. I can only buy them from these other countries. These products that people want installed in their houses. Oh, there is one that just said they're switching to U.S. manufacturing only, and they let us know that prices are going up about 25% because they're switching to U.S. manufacturing only, and so all of that's just going to get passed on to all the customers for his business. Like that. That's one man's opinion. Okay. Yeah. There's a few arguments the arguments on this are different. Now, first off, the idea that we're going to do this on Mexico and Canada, there's been a lot of it based on, they're letting fentanyl come across the border. Now, Canada, not a whole lot of fentanyl coming across the border into the United States from Canada. In fact, Canada says they got just as much or more fentanyl coming across the border from the U.S. going over into Canada. Mexico, probably a lot of fentanyl coming over from Mexico. And so we want to force them to stop this from happening. Now, if that's your argument for tariffs, as a libertarian, I have to take issue with that argument. Do I want fentanyl in people's drugs? Or do I want people just snorting fentanyl? Do I want them doing that? No, I don't want them doing that. And so I've got a libertarian prescription for you in the drug war. Legalize drugs. You can go buy them. They're manufactured. They got a brand name on them. That brand is not going to want to just immediately kill all their customers. We have a black market in drugs right now, and that's why they want to sneak in all these little sneaky, terrible, dangerous additives and fillers into their products.
Because there's a demand for it.
There's a demand. They can make more money off of it. But I guess that's not the direction we're going. We want to stop fentanyl from coming across the border and in order to aid the war on drugs. And then there's also arguments from people like, this is better for the economy. We're going to have more U.S. jobs. We're going to protect U.S. businesses, and we're going to buy American. And, that's fine. I want everyone to realize the fact that will be more expensive and that you pretty much could buy American if you wanted to. You're choosing not to because it's more expensive. Mm-hmm. And so you could already choose for that to be very important for you. You're just not doing it. The dangerous side of tariffs is that another dangerous side is that there are things that are produced better in other countries where our productive people could do something that we're better at, and they could produce something that they're better at. And then we all have more stuff later on.
This
and
is known
we have a higher
as,
standard of living afterwards.
This is known as economies.
Economies of scale. You can call comparative advantage. You can call all sorts of different ways that they talk about this. But there are things that, in fact, it is better to be done in another country, and it's better for us for that to be done in another country. The other annoying part as a libertarian is that the things that aren't better to be done in other countries but still are probably have a lot to do with the fact that there's so many regulations and taxes on businesses in the U.S. And by deciding to just tariff and force people to do it in the U.S., we are ignoring the root cause of the problem of why is it that they do it over there.
But let me steel man the other side for you because I want to say it's like, okay, free trade is the ultimate goal. But if you have other actors in the game of free trade who aren't acting fairly by the rules, then does that put you at a detriment? Like you're being fair.
Yeah.
But the other person's not being fair. So then is it fair?
Yeah.
Is it?
So
and then what do you do about that?
You might be talking about the one of the concepts in trade is called dumping, and that's where countries will subsidize. Let's say China will subsidize its steel.
Bailey says nice guys finish last theory.
Yeah, exactly. You could dumping is a thing that people talk about, which is that people are going to subsidize the cost of, say, steel from China, and it'll be cheaper for us to buy it there only because the Chinese government is subsidizing it, and so it's cheaper than it is here in the U.S. And what I would point to is things like what Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell have said on this. There's been many a book written on this. If the Chinese government wants to tax their people, realize the only way they can subsidize it is by destroying their own economy, by taxing their own people, or by printing their own money or taking out their own debt and subsidizing those things. And if they would like to tax their own people in order to make things cheaper for us to buy, I don't know. I guess I'll take it. It's not like they're taxing us to do that. So we're going to have a lot of room for tariff conversations over the next 4 years. I got a feeling about that, but none of it matters anymore.
This one seemed to work on Mexico, by the way.
At least with Mexico.
Trump halts tariffs on Mexico as it rushes troops to border. Mexico has agreed to rush, not just send. They're rushing 10,000 National Guard troops to the border to strengthen efforts to block the flow of drugs, especially fentanyl, coming in to the United States. So
it sort of seems like if this was in fact a negotiating tactic, it might already be working as it pertains to Mexico. Because I do want to tell you guys, we do sort of have the upper hand here. Sagar from Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar, he's pro tariffs, and he explained the fact that 75% of Canadian exports go to the U.S. Only 12% of our imports come from Canada. So look at the advantage that we have.
Well, the United States is the number one consumer in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So most countries make a profit by sending their goods to the United States because we are the richest nation and we buy a lot of junk.
Yeah, and in fact, with Canada, 75% of the goods that they export go to us.
Which means 75% of their GDP is paid for, essentially.
With exports.
Yeah, by the United States.
And so it is a big deal for us to tariff their goods. 80% of Mexican exports, 80% of the products that they manufacture and sell to other countries goes to us. Okay, so when we say we're going to tariff it, it's a lot of avocados.
And jalapenos.
You know? That's a big deal for them. It could be very, very detrimental for their economies if we decide to stop buying things from them, if that in fact does work. Now, if we just decide that we've got enough buying power to add on the tax on top of the price of our goods and we continue buying everything from them, but we also pay a tax to our government at the same time, well, it doesn't really affect them all that much. You know, we keep buying from them, but we also pay a tax on top of it. Only 14% of our imports come from Mexico. Okay, so that just shows you what the imbalance as far as the negotiation that, like, Trump knows we've got you sort of by the balls here just a little bit. Okay, yeah. Now we've got you and a whole bunch of American consumers by the balls at the same time. Just so you know, you can't really remove those two from each other.
Well, poor Americans.
Yeah. That's true.
Because look, 25% increase in spending, it does affect everybody, but it doesn't really affect rich people.
No, I mean they'll be fine. Of course, they might create less jobs in the economy. You know, if they're paying more taxes,
they might
stuff like
buy
that.
one less car,
so, something like that. The interesting part, like the opposite side of our argument that we're making right now, is that they were talking about retaliatory tariffs. So if Mexico's argument is, well, you're just taxing your own people for buying stuff from us, that's a stupid plan. And so we're going to tax our own people in order to get you back for doing that.
Yeah.
And so the fact that countries do that sort of tells you that it's not the only thing that happens. People will buy less things from Mexico when there is a tariff, or they will demand lower prices on the things from Mexico to offset the tariff. And Mexico knows that. That's why they would have retaliatory tariffs on us. Because if it were only something that was going to harm your consumers and your economy, you wouldn't threaten to, like, oh, you got a gun to your head? I'm going to put one to mine. Okay? All right, this is a standoff right now. That's not what you would do, you know? And so anyway, the tariff thing is pretty nuts, but apparently it's already worked with Mexico so far.
Not with Canada.
It's a pause. Not with Canada, but Trudeau said that he's had good conversations with Trump, and they're going to have a meeting, I think, today or tomorrow. Or was that today?
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
So they're going to have a meeting today. Now, the next interesting part of this is, for all the people that are making arguments saying, this is good for the American economy, buy American, this is good to protect our industries and our businesses, and people just need to be willing to pay a little more if that means American jobs and American manufacturing. And they're all supportive of Trump's tariffs and all that. Okay, and then Trump's like, oh yeah, we're not going to do the tariffs because they put the troops on the border. So where are those people left after that?
Yeah.
Because they're fighting like, yeah, tariffs, that's a good idea. We're getting taken advantage of. We're getting screwed over. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to put troops there on the border and stop the drugs from coming in.
Okay, you don't have to buy American-made anymore.
No, it's not important anymore. It's not important anymore. It's not a big deal. Yeah, it's totally fine. Now we don't have to do the tariffs anymore. What happens to all those people that are arguing in favor of doing the tariffs? Are they mad now after that because the negotiation worked and now there's not any tariffs? You know?
Yeah.
What's the... I don't know, man. It's going to be such a fun 4 years. We're starting week 3 of this.
It's been
There's
wild.
52 weeks in a year. We got
This
4
has
years
been
of this.
a wild presidency already.
We're in week 3 of what?
I told you that.
208 weeks.
The best part of this whole thing is going to be the entertainment of it all.
Oh, we missed them.
My predecessor missed him so much.
The other, we'll talk about the USAID.
I'll tell you what, I'll tell you something. I bought a Mexican Stratocaster one time, and it was decent. I did have to put American-made pickups in it.
Yeah,
but
that's not a truck, by the way. That's a pickup. It picks up the sound if you don't play guitar. Just so you guys know, he's not talking about putting like a Ford F-150 on a Strat or anything.
I tell you what, once I combined the two.
Yeah.
Powerhouses, it sounded pretty good, and the craftsmanship of the Stratocaster was still good. I had to adjust the action on the neck.
Yeah, that neck gets a
bit.
Yeah.
But other than that,
a little skewed on the neck there.
Almost no one knew that it was Mexican-made Strat.
See, I bought Korean guitars.
Well, you're Asian, so that makes sense.
I know.
It
feels natural.
That's the way you send money back home.
Yeah. It's a money laundering scheme, really, to get money back to my family. Okay, so as we said, it's Dumb Bleep of the month. We normally do Dumb Bleep of the year. It's a long process of trying to go through each month of the year. And
for Nate.
For me.
Nate does a lot of work.
Yeah, mainly for me. Actually, entirely for me. It's a long process. And so one of our Fed Haters Club members, I can't remember who, brought up the idea that we should do a monthly Dumb Bleep. So at the end of the year, we already knew who the dumbest bleep of the month was, and then we just only had to do a couple rounds of voting at the end of the year. And I am in favor of that. Plus, it gives us another episode that has that Dumb Bleep. Apparently, you put Dumb Bleep in an episode, and people flock to it, you know. And so it gives us that. I've got, I didn't open up this slideshow yet. Let me make sure that's open. So we've got 5 submissions. We have 5 Fridays in January, apparently.
It's a lot of Fridays.
I guess we did. We have 5 submissions here.
And you get to do the voting live.
We're going to do the voting. Yeah, we don't have to wait for people to read and listen and do all that at the end of the year. Like, this is going to be such a time saver come December for me.
And more fun for everybody.
And what will I do with my labor at that time? Yeah. Be more productive at that time.
And then it gives me an idea of what the Dumb Bleeps of the month are that are in the running for the Dumb Bleep of the year. Because I have no idea until we get to the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely no clue. So number 1 is actually something dumb that Trump said. This was the winner of the first week of the year. This is
before he was president.
Before he was the president.
Again.
It's something that Trump said. So go ahead, Charlie.
All right, Trump, this is actually posted on X, one of his first
it looks like it
was.
Backs.
Yeah. He said, our country is a disaster, a laughing stock all over the world. This is what happens when you have open borders with weak, ineffective, and virtually non-existent leadership. The DOJ, FBI, and Democrat state and local prosecutors have not done their job.
By the way, so far he's doing fine. He's doing fine on this tweet. Doing fine.
They are incompetent and corrupt, having spent all of their waking hours unlawfully attacking their political opponent, me, rather than focusing on protecting Americans from the outside and inside violent scum that has infiltrated all aspects of our government and our nation itself. Democrats should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this to happen to our country. The CIA must get involved now before it is too late. The USA is breaking down. A violent erosion of safety, national security, and democracy is taking place all across our nation. Only strength and powerful leadership will stop it. See you on January 20th. Make America great again. The CIA must get involved.
Huh. So close. It was so close. And that sort of shows...
what would the CIA do for the border?
Should these go in the Dumb Bleep of the Week voting channel or the Dumb Bleep of the Year voting channel?
Probably year, I would say.
I guess they should. I started it in Dumb Bleep of the Year. Let me throw it over here in Dumb Bleep. I started them weekly. Let me throw it over here for the year.
So it looks like Trump basically did a great job on this tweet, except for the fact that he said the CIA must get involved. Because we know what happens when the CIA gets involved.
Yeah,
it's nothing good.
Things get a lot better after that. It shows you that's sort of when some of the lack of principle or understanding comes in. No, this is early. This is before he was the president again, you know. But the CIA is, in fact, a part of the deep state. In fact, they're a very large part of the deep state.
It's like, the people that spied on my campaign, we should put them at the border.
Yeah.
They must get involved.
The ones toppling governments and, stuff overseas. Like, we definitely need to get them more. They need to be more involved here where they technically have no jurisdiction.
Yep. So that won the first week.
That was the first week. You see how principled our people are, because a lot of people in our group voted for Trump, but it was still Trump's comments that first week of the year.
So Trump could win Dumb Bleep of the Year.
He could.
He's in the running.
Depends on who happens here. Now, number 2, this is where we talked about...
Is this also Trump?
No, I'm just going to show you what sort of kicked off a little bit of this. This was DC Drano Cat Turd, and we called them the MAGA Grifters. So it was DC Drano, Cat Turd, and MAGA Grifters for number 2. And I don't know if you guys remember, this is a long time ago, but there was a feud going on between some of these MAGA grifters, if you want to call them, that are MAGA people. Let's just call them MAGA people, okay? That's fine. They're some of the big MAGA
the guys
influencers.
That would vote for Trump if he did shoot someone in the face.
Doesn't matter.
On Fifth Avenue.
Does not
in
matter.
Broad daylight.
If Trump came out in favor of gun confiscation, Cat Turd would be like, yeah, we got to anyone who doesn't agree with Trump on this is a traitor to the United States.
If Trump came out in favor of transing kids.
Yeah. If he trans kids live on TV, Cat Turd would stream it and call everyone who doesn't support it an anti-American scum.
Yes.
Okay, that kind of person. And the first week of the year, we did talk about this. Trump came out and was talking about this bill that we needed to pass. Now, last year, we were having these fights over how we needed to separate the bills out. And, multiple spending bills. And this is one of the big things that led to Kevin McCarthy getting ousted, stuff like that. And we wanted to separate it out. Well, Trump came out and he was like, yeah, we got to do all of this in one big, beautiful bill. The border, the energy, tariffs, all
no tax
sorts.
On tips.
Everything has to be in this one beautiful yes or no bill. Either you're with me or against me, and you have to agree to all these things. And Thomas
I also
Massey,
like how he posted this on January 5th, and at the end of it, he said, send the bill to my desk.
Yeah.
To sign as soon as possible.
Yeah, go ahead and send it. Send it down to Mar-a-Lago at that time. And so Massey had a problem with this, as Massey, being a principled guy, will come out and say that he disagrees with Trump on different things. And some of the grifters came out against him. And then Massey clapped back with, who are the most nenarded? I think as a congressman, he's probably scared to say the other word that
retarded.
Doesn't want to say retarded. Who are the most nenarded paid influencers on this platform? Does anyone else compete with cat poop and DC drainage for this title? To which Cat Turd says, I've never taken a dime from any political party or organizations. I ratio you at will with half my brain tied behind my back for free. Let's see. He also said, remember when Trump hating Thomas Massey, this is a little bit later on his official Congress account, unprovoked, attacked me a few days ago, claiming I was a paid grifter who was paid for my political opinions. I do. So him and his team of cringe, butthurt, desimp, they're still mad that Thomas Massey supported DeSantis in the primaries.
But
even
then
though
he came out.
Eventually endorsed Trump
Yeah, exactly.
and voted for him. Doesn't matter, I guess. DeSimp losers did every kind of research trying to prove I was wrong. They couldn't because they were liars. I've never taken a dime. So what did Tommy do? The most honorable guy, according to himself in history, did he say, my team has looked into this and Cat Turd is right. He's never taken a dime from anyone. Nope. He said he's going to sue Thomas Massie, and we should stay tuned. I have not heard anything about that afterwards.
Yeah.
Probably because of the fact that he's literally a paid influencer. I mean, I get it. Like, you're getting paid for your content. Does that make you an influencer or whatever? Like, yeah, you're a paid influencer. You are. And you push everything that Trump wants to do at all times. Things like, there were tweets going
Also,
around of him saying, I would never support RFK Jr. He's feels this and this on abortion. You know, you can never support him. And then last week, he's like, anyone who doesn't support RFK Jr. for this
is a Nazi.
It's just stuff like that. Like,
also,
come on,
the way
man.
he tried to weasel around by saying, like, well, I've never taken a dime from political organizations or politicians.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what he said.
That's not what Massie said.
He said cat poop, by the way, which is not even you.
Yeah, he didn't call you by name.
Yeah.
And he said
that you're
DC
just
drainage. So
you're
that's
just
not
a paid influencer.
Yeah.
He never said you took a dime from any political party or organizations. He never said that.
Mm-hmm. DC Drano came out and said, what's funny is nobody pays me to call out your hypocrisy and anti-Trump obstructionism. By the way, when you're in favor of breaking things up into multiple spending bills, as many people were in the Republican Congress over the last couple of years, although it never happened, that means you're a Trump obstructionist at that time, because now Trump has decided that giant omnibus bills are the way to do things. He says, I do it all for free. And then we have a community note here that says, oh, yeah, he was paid $164,000 to promote this specific amendment in Florida in 2024. Not only is he just a paid influencer on Twitter, where he does get paid as a creator every time he posts, he has also been specifically paid to push specific ballot measures for Republicans, which led him to then delete that post, which is great. Afterwards, that's awesome.
Love community notes.
Yeah, that's good. So this one is just called, let's see,
MAGA
DC,
drifters.
Yeah, we'll call it MAGA grifters.
I said drifters.
Or whichever one you want to do, that's fine.
MAGA grifters.
You know, I think all these guys have valuable things to say at times, but the problem is they don't really have any principles. Their principle is like trust and follow Trump at all times. You know, if they're all in support of these tariffs right now, and they're probably all making arguments about how much better it would be for the U.S. economy. And then, as I said earlier, when Mexico and Canada acquiesce to whatever Trump's demands are, and he says, oh, yeah, no tariffs, they're all going to be like, oh, yeah, Trump won. That's fine. Like, what about all our arguments you just made about tariffs being great and getting taken advantage of all that stuff? Like, they don't actually have any ideas or principles on their own.
Nope.
Okay, so number 3, now we've made it to post-California wildfires, and we've made it to Bill Burr and his comments on, I believe, Jimmy Kimmel about people who were doing their own research on whether or not California did a good job handling the wildfires. And I remember this like it was a couple weeks ago. You know,
because it was.
That's specifically why. Let's see what he had to say on that.
You had to evacuate your home.
Yes. Like most people, I had to. I got lucky, you know, the winds moved, but, you know, the fire was coming and all that stuff. So I feel lucky.
Are you guys back in?
And I think everybody did a great job.
Yeah.
Unlike the internet, you know?
Yeah, right. I know. It's right.
Oh, my God. All of these fire experts.
Wait, hang on.
Why didn't you just fly a helicopter?
His house was spared, so everybody did a great job.
I guess they did a great job.
Would he have the same argument if his house went up in flames and he couldn't get back on his property and had to get a permit? And
no, it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, but his house was spared, so everybody did a great job. My house was
That's not it.
Helicopter into the ocean and then just, I don't know, because there was 100-knot winds. You want to do that? You want to do that at night, you lunatic?
How are you?
This was definitely mismanaged.
That's a big word we're hearing now.
Mismanaged, like some idiot on the internet knows how to manage the worst fire in L.A. sitting there in his underwear. You know what? Looking at the footage on the internet, I have determined that this here was mismanaged.
You know about helicopters because I remember.
All right, that's where Jimmy Kimmel tries to change the subject a little bit. I think how we discussed how this was sort of like the trusting the experts during COVID that he sort of just had his trust the experts moment during COVID right then. And it's not like you look at the video of the fire and you're thinking to yourself like, oh yeah, that looks like it was mismanaged. Why didn't they go in there and do that? What actually happens on the internet, there's like 1 billion people on there talking about it. And some of those people are fire forest management experts that are on there talking. And some people are from other states where they manage their forests differently.
They sweep their forests.
They sweep forests. They do all sorts of stuff. And it turns out that you can get opinions from other people who are in fact experts who come out and talk. And then you can say, well, this person here says y'all should have swept their florist and it wouldn't have gotten so big. Or maybe you should have had plentiful water, for everyone to use at all times. And, it just sort of felt like COVID
and
to
then
me
you
when
have,
you had this conversation.
And then you have other reasonable people just asking questions like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Is it possible that they didn't take care of their forests very well? Is it possible that Gavin Newsom didn't allow water to get down
Could be possible.
to where it's needed?
Maybe they maybe they signed a bill for more water storage and reservoirs and stuff like that, and they still haven't built them because they're trying to do the environmental impact studies and stuff like that, and so those still aren't built or whatever. Like,
is it possible that someone is responsible for the fact that the fire hydrants had no water coming out of them at the time they were needed most?
Could be.
Now, you couldn't park in front of that fire hydrant.
No, it's important. You got to use it.
But
Yeah.
when you hooked up to it, there was just this air coming out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did they pay their water bill? Because, I've had my water shut off before.
Yeah, got to pay that bill.
Because the bill wasn't paid.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is that what happened? Like, there were people asking reasonable questions and coming to the conclusion that it appears, based on what a lot of people are saying, that this looks like it was mismanaged. And guess what, Bill? That's definitely mismanaged.
It sort of looks like it was,
For
according
sure.
to many.
Now, it doesn't mean that there would be any less houses burned up because this is a freak fire. There were 100 knot winds, and but those aren't abnormal.
They have happened.
The Santa Ana winds have happened before.
2011, they had 165 mile an hour gusts during the winds, so it happens.
Yes, but however, it does appear, now that we have all this evidence, that people asking whether or not this was mismanaged, it looks like there's a bit of mismanagementism.
What's
that
funny
happened.
is the alternative to this is you'd have to look at the devastation and say, yeah, this looks like it was managed pretty perfectly. I mean, anyone who's out there criticizing the management of the forests and the fire response, I mean, they definitely have no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah.
From what I can tell in these videos, they've done a perfect job.
We couldn't have saved
being
any
ready
more
for
lives
this.
or spared any more houses.
Nothing
This was
could have done better.
managed
This
perfectly.
was perfect. Like, that's what you're saying,
God.
No.
And look, I like Bill Burr. I think he's really funny on a lot of stuff, especially women's issues. But
You would.
But anyway.
Okay, that's Dumb Bleep of the month number 3, I believe. Number 4 now, we've got that the bishop doing the national prayer whatever thing the day after the inauguration. And I'm, overall, I'm fine with most of it until you get to protecting transgender children.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it gets a little ridiculous to me. Aside from the fact that you're making a political speech during a prayer, but whatever. Let's listen to that.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our
J.D.
crops
Vance's face.
and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation.
And also, how is it that all the illegal immigrants are the ones that are like washing dishes, working overnights at hospitals, and picking crops?
Yeah.
As if immigrants don't do any other job.
No, that's it.
You know, like we don't have any like tech immigrants, or
No.
we don't have any mathematician immigrants, or
I mean, listen to her. She's saying that they're too stupid to do those things. I mean, you got to take care of these people, you know?
you got to have compassion for them. They don't know how to do anything else. God.
It's probably enough of that clip. And oh man, JD Vance's faces throughout this period.
He's like,
I want to see this reaction again after this.
Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives.
Trump's falling asleep.
Yeah.
He's not paying attention to a word this lesbian is saying. And Melania just straight face gangster the whole time.
Oh yeah, she is.
She doesn't make a move.
She's
Just-
scary these days. I
Yeah,
tell
well,
you what.
Yeah.
She scares me.
I don't think you'd mess with her.
It's a good thing we don't have a system where she would take the throne if something happened to Trump, because I'm pretty sure he'd die in his sleep. Pretty sure. Yeah. So anyway, the lefty bishop thing. First off, it's dumb to try and make political arguments the day after the inauguration during
From the
the
pulpit.
national prayer from the pulpit. Yeah, that's dumb. And it's also the fact that she brought in transgender children into this that are like,
children. Yeah.
my God. As I said last time, like, I hope no one goes to her church anymore, but I'm sure it's probably packed. I mean, they've probably heard her talk about this dumb stuff before. So that was ridiculous. That was the winner of week before last, I believe. Let me make sure that we're on track here. Yeah, that was number 4, called that one Lefty Bishop. And now we're to last week's winner. And so we had some clips from the RFK confirmation hearing. I didn't bring in all the clips for today. We just did this on Friday. I do have a couple of them, a couple of the shorter ones. So we had stuff like Bernie Sanders being like, "Are you supportive of these onesies over here?" Like that's serious stuff. We've got to take it. And then he says something about him being for $26. 26. Go look at his website. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you, Bernie onesies are probably about $36, something like that. I don't know how much they are, but they're expensive. I can tell you that. We had the Bernie thing. We had the one that really got me heated when they started talking about antidepressants, SSRIs, stuff like that. Just this idea that you can't question this. I told a personal story.
I think if you're on
Friday.
antidepressants, you shouldn't be allowed to be a lawmaker.
Yeah. They're way overprescribed, and we're not getting down to, we never ask the questions of like, why are you depressed? Are there things in your life that could get sorted out? Or like, is it automatic? Oh, you're depressed. Well, that must be because there is some kind of misfiring happening. There's a chemical imbalance between, so I'm going to give you these medications to change up this chemical imbalance that's happening in your brain. Like, it's not like we did a brain test to make sure that that was the case. Like, that's why you're depressed. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time it has to do with the situation that you're dealing with in your life.
Or like, when was the last time you saw the sun?
Yeah.
Are you
Could
low
be vitamin
in
D?
Are you low in magnesium?
Yeah.
Like there
Be all sorts of stuff.
are
like
lots of reasons that you could have a chemical imbalance. Like, you could have a chemical imbalance.
Mm-hmm. You could.
But why should you ingest like chemicals for that versus like what could naturally, bring
Yeah.
it? Now, there are people who do have all things going in right in life for them. Like, they get out, they exercise, their sun is shining, no one in their family's died. They're rich beyond their wildest dreams, and they're still clinically depressed.
Sure.
That is possible.
Sure. Yeah.
And there could, but I think that's very rare
And there's-
compared to all the people who are on SSRIs. And I think in science, you should ask a question like, is this working how we expect it to work? Or does this adversely affect people in a way that maybe we should caution just getting people on them?
Do the risks outweigh the potential benefits here? And there are people who, even if it is a situational problem in your life, it could be so bad that you could benefit. We're not doctors. Don't take this as medical advice whatsoever. Man, we haven't said that in a while. Felt like we were back in 2020 just then. Don't take this as medical advice, but it could still be a situational thing in your life, but you could benefit from something that could help you get through that time because things are just so terrible and it's going to take you a few years to get out of this rut. and it might be helpful for you to take something that could make that better. Or you could just be doing...
As long as you don't kill yourself when you come off of them.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, too. Or you could just be doing dumbass shit all the time, and someone needs to talk to you and be like, okay, here's a list. Most of it looks like dumbass shit that you're doing. And my recommendation is not that I give you pills from Big Pharma, but that you stop doing the dumbass shit. You know? You stop doing that.
That's too harsh, Nate. Yeah.
So
way too harsh.
That it's very annoying to me that we can't have, or you're what do you do? You're stigmatizing people. That, no, I'm trying to talk about it. I'm trying to talk about what's actually happening. Not that I was born with a lack of drugs, you know. That's my problem. I was born with a lack of drugs from this pharmaceutical company, and I just need the drugs to make my life better. No, it's probably not what's happening.
You know what's interesting? You go over like to Africa where people are like starving to death.
Yeah.
And you don't hear any of them complain about being depressed. They're just hungry.
It's all relative.
Yeah. By the way, there's another thing. You know, a lot of people hate Andrew Tate, which, you know, I tend to approach people with like, take the good and separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay.
Yeah, I really can't stand that guy.
Yeah. I'm not saying I like him. I think there's some obvious things that I don't agree with him on. But there is one thing that I thought was interesting is he said that when people come to him, men, and like, I'm depressed, I want to commit suicide, his answer to that is always like, okay, you can commit suicide, but before you do, I want you to get a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Like, go get a 6-pack and then kill yourself. And he says what happens is like once people are like, all right, yeah. Once you do that, like once you get in the gym and you better your life or whatever, you become confident in yourself to where you no longer want to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And I think that might be helpful.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, examine your life. Okay, I want to end it, which is, you know, people might not be wrong in that scenario. Okay, I used to think
there may be nothing you could do that could stop that feeling from happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also like, yeah, there's a lot of suffering in the world, so I get it. I totally understand. But here, look at the areas of your life that you yourself have control over and can make improvements on, make those improvements, and then see if you still come to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
See if you still have those same feelings. See if like, okay, I've done everything in my power that I can to make sure my life goes right and it's still not happening. And then analyze the situation.
Don't do it before you try those things first.
Exactly.
And that's advice for anyone listening right now who's going through that stuff. You know that there are things that you could be doing better. This goes for me and Charlie and for people that are listening
I gotta
right
clean
now.
my room, man.
Yeah. You know there are better decisions you could be making.
This room's a mess.
There's something that you want to do that you know you should do that you are not doing. And so our advice would be do those things and see if your life gets better. And if it doesn't, if it still sucks afterwards, then come back to us and still don't kill yourself and all that. But, you know, come back and talk to us after that. Okay, there were other things in the RFK hearing that we won't play the clips for. But there was a situation where Senator Brooks, Brooks,
Tambien.
Brooks too?
Tambien Brooks.
Yes. This situation was RFK had said in the past that black people shouldn't receive the same vaccine schedule as given to whites. And she asked, so what different vaccine schedule should I have? And he talks about the study from Poland where they had shown that essentially like black people have better immune systems and it could take a lower dosage of things for them to respond. Now, listen, I don't know if that's true purely because of the color of your skin. I don't know if that is what matters. It could be a specific genetic lineage that people have to be from for that to be the case. And it might not purely be the case because your skin is a certain color, you know? Mm-hmm. What if we took that as a possibility and we studied that and we figured out what that was and we decided, well, there's a specific lineage here that turns out they either don't need this or they need like half the dose or a quarter of the dose that other people do. And we didn't act like that was somehow racist to talk about or that it was super dangerous to talk about. I think that that's a question that we should be allowed to ask because these things can have adverse health effects. Everything that you put in your body can have an adverse side effect, an adverse risk, okay? And so we should ask those questions and see if we can get down to the bottom of it. I think that that's a very beneficial thing that we should be open to doing, and being afraid of it being racist or whatever, to say that that's potentially the case is absolutely that you would risk other people's lives and their health purely because something sounds racist or whatever. You decide it is racist. Well, that makes you a bad person. And in my humble opinion, it makes you a bad person. We did have one clip. I did want to play it for fun, though, because this is where Senator Hassan said that sometimes science is wrong, and it's wrong to question science, but sometimes it's wrong, but you have to stop questioning it. Specifically, settled science, whatever we've decided is settled, probably whichever thing we get the most money from, we've decided is settled science. But here's that happening.
Sometimes science is wrong. We make progress.
By the way, is she doing like I feel like beforehand someone was like, hey, could you do a combination of Anthony Fauci, Bernie Sanders' voice when you're chastising RFK? Would you mind trying to sound a little bit like Fauci and Bernie at the same time while also being a woman? All right, now let's listen to it with that in mind.
Sometimes science is wrong. We make progress. We build on the work and we become more successful. And when you continue to sow doubt about settled science, it makes it impossible for us to move forward. So that's what the problem is here. It's the relitigating and rehashing and continuing to sow doubt so we can't move forward. Sometimes science is wrong. We make progress.
All right. To make sure we cover that beginning again.
Sometimes science is wrong.
And of course that is the case.
Question it.
Sometimes it is wrong. And whatever we've decided is settled that can't be touched, a lot of times it's got a lot of interest behind it, a lot of financial interest behind it. And we decide that that's settled and it's no longer time for questioning. You should still question things. I think we should question. Let's take it all under consideration. I want to get down to the bottom of the shape of this here planet. I think we should do a study on it. Okay, study's over. Look, did anyone die because we questioned that real quick? I mean, just ask the guy up there in the station, like, look out the window, round or flat. What are you guys gauging right here? Can you give us a formal report on this? Okay, round. All right, let's get down to the next thing after that. We should just question it.
Although, I mean, I'm watching Silo right now.
Yeah, that's a good show.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We've went through a couple episodes yesterday, which is why I didn't get to clean in this room.
I support that because Silo is a good show.
You can't look. It looks like you can't even trust cameras. Okay.
No.
All right.
I mean, well, I'm not gonna spoil anything for you, and no one else in the group is gonna spoil it for you either. It's pretty. You know that I'm gonna recommend that. I'm rewatching a show called Messiah on Netflix, and I'm so mad that they didn't keep it going. But one of the best first seasons of a show I've ever seen. It's like a CIA show, but the terrorist that they're watching is a guy who might be the second coming, or that might be the entire plan to destabilize everyone around the world. And throughout the entire show, they are keeping you guessing. Is this guy a magician or whoever working with terrorist groups in order to fool people and trick them into thinking he's the second coming? Or is he actually the second coming? And but it's like, or is through the eyes of the CIA,
or is it a CIA plant?
Yeah, or that too. Yeah,
who's trying to destabilize?
Really good show.
Okay,
I recommend people go and watch that. It's worth it, even though there's only one season. Anyhow, that has nothing to do with anything. We're just talking about TV shows.
All I'm
right
saying
now
is you can't trust.
You can't. Never trust. Moral of the story today: don't trust.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, we need to get votes in. That's what we got.
The base is let's just go quick psychological real quick, okay? People are like in relationships, whatever. It's like, okay, like the number one thing is trust, and even looking at societal relationships and things. Well, okay, what is the underlying foundation of trust? Well, it has to be truth.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a level of grounding for that trust to take place. It's grounded in truth.
Have you been looking at the notes on my phone, by the way?
I haven't, no.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I've been writing out a thesis, and it's called A Society Built on Trust.
That's so
and
funny.
I've been writing out my ideas about, it starts off with like libertarians. I asked the first question, are most people libertarian? Yes. For themselves and for the people they know and trust, they are libertarians. But where that breaks down is that they are afraid of people that they don't have any trust in to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And
why is there no trust? Well, we found out there's a bunch of lies. There's no truth. There was like, and COVID was one of the biggest ones, but I think we're about to find out a bunch more. We didn't mention USAID or any of the Treasury Department payments, or the fact that Zelensky came out and said, "Oh, yeah, we didn't get $100 billion of the 175." You know, so there's a lot of crazy things, I think, happening.
I mentioned the trust thing when we were talking about DEI the other day with the plane crash. Like, it, at the end of the day, like, we might find out DEI had nothing to do with that plane crash that happened, or the other plane crash that happened, you know, a couple days afterwards. But what we've lost is the trust in the system, because we went away from a truthful way of hiring people, which is hiring the best people. And once you know that they have hired people not on the basis of being the best person for that job, but on the basis of something else, you lose all trust in that system after that. And so that's what has happened now. That's why people come out and blame it afterwards. And it doesn't really matter if that's the case. People don't trust it anymore. Like, if you knew, like, no, they hired the top candidate, they take nothing else under consideration other than the fact that they do the best, absolute best job all the time. Well, then you kind of trust that, you know, you're going to have the best outcomes.
And they were able to get rid of people who didn't do a good job.
Exactly. That too. And then we have the government where you can't get rid of people who do a bad job. And so you can't trust it anymore, because there are people who shouldn't be there that are still there, you know? And that's where society really starts to break down.
I saw this woman came out about DEI, and she was talking about how, you know, well, we didn't study the effect that this medication had on women until 2 years ago. And we didn't, like, that's what DEI is for. And I'm like, look, if DEI was about being inclusive of, you know, women in certain areas and studies and things like that, then I think no one would have a problem with that. But that's not what DEI is about.
Yeah.
That's the DEI has been shown in large corporations and other people to be about ensuring that we have people who look different in certain positions, regardless of whether or not they can actually do the job, as long as they look different, which I find to be ridiculous. It just, anyway, that's a tangent on this entire Dumb Bleep.
Yeah.
Of
who's the winner, by the way?
Of not trusting government. Did anybody get the votes in? Anybody start voting yet?
People are voting. It looks like, unless something changes, out of week number 1, we had Trump CIA comments. Number 2, we had the MAGA Grifters. Number 3, we had Bill Burr. Number 4, we had the lefty Bishop. And number 5, we had the RFK Hearing clips that we played, and probably just the overall RFK Hearing in general. The RFK Hearing is going to win. That's who wins.
Yep.
So
Dumb Bleep of January.
We'll go back through and see who submitted those clips, and so that means you, with your RFK Hearing clips, are sitting there on the leaderboard right now for Dumb Bleep of the Year. And good on you for doing that. Good job.
All right, y'all. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it around with a friend, a family member, or foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go to GodHatesFeds.com. That's GodHatesFeds.com. GodHatesFeds.com. And be part of the Fed Haters Club. We've got, part of a lot of people in the live group today, comparatively.
Tom said we should leave the voting open for the people who aren't here. You know, normally at the end of the year, it's not during a specific show that we vote for that month. It's open for a few days before we move it on. So we can leave it open if other people want to vote. Well,
it's for the entire Fed Haters Club.
Yeah.
Because we only get about a few percentage of people who actually watch live.
About 10% of the Fed Haters Club will hang out with us on a daily basis, something like that.
Not even.
Yeah.
So, well, join the Fed Haters Club and go check out the Dumb Bleep of the Year channel vote. Do that.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. Visit the sponsors. Visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show. If you do all that, then we'll be back again on Tuesday. That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, yeah.
Until then, I hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.